Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. I just made the webinar live, so we'll just wait another 20 seconds or so to allow people to get into the room here, which I can see people still being let in slowly but surely here. Anyways, we have a great topic today, cybersecurity awareness. Not sure if you guys are already doing something regularly to keep your skills up and your spidey senses up when it comes to cybersecurity, but hopefully today we're going to go through and give you a really good rundown of what's going on and how to keep yourself safe, and hope everybody takes some things away from today. So, and again, this is going to be basic training. We're not getting into any advanced, cybersecurity solutions. This is literally awareness training for, end users to keep themselves safe, their businesses safe, while they are working. Okay, with that said, let's just get going here. And today I am joined by my colleagues, Tyler Sanders and Rishwan Syed, who's our cybersecurity manager. Say hello, guys.
Hey. Good afternoon.
All right, and we got so much content to do. I'm just going to get started and start going through. So I think most people on the call are probably familiar with us, but if you've never met with us before or we've never had a conversation, just super quick about us. We've been in business now coming up on 24 years. Our main service is proactive managed IT services. We do it a very specific way that's generally a bit different than most of the marketplace. We also specialize in managed IT security, managed cloud services. We're about 65 people in the company now, and we're an ISO 9001 business that's born and bred on process, procedure, quality improvement. We get great results through that structure. We've been a great place to work for the last 8 years, and we're currently supporting a little over 60 law firms. So feel like we have a lot of expertise in the applications, the workflows, and just the general workings of law firms. Feel like we can give them great help when it comes to IT. That's our support model on the right. Again, most people work with us for the reactive side of the business. So if we haven't had a conversation in a while or never had a conversation, hey, we'd love to have a conversation, see what you're doing around IT, cybersecurity, and maybe even give you, an opinion and some things that you can go back to your team with. Anyways, moving on, we do a lot of these free training webinars. You can go on our site if you've missed any, you can go on our site and get access to them for free on demand. If you've been to our webinars before, welcome back. If you've never been, hey, enjoy today, welcome, and go ahead and go through some of our old content there. Just go to the media dropdown under resources and webinars, and you can get access to all the other things that we've done before. Quickly, our agenda today, looking at the threat landscape, looking at some basic and advanced cyber threats that are out there, looking through some basic terms, best practices, some of the scams that we're seeing, and then some tips on how you can stay safe. And we'll end everything off with some Q&A. Quick housekeeping. Obviously, everybody's in listen-only mode. Now, this webinar is being recorded. It's a question that we always get, and we will send out a link to be able to access it after, as well as it will also be posted to our website. You can ask questions. We do encourage questions at any time. Just use the Q&A button, or you can also use the chat button if you like. And we're hoping to leave 10 or 15 minutes at the end of this to get through some questions. So with that all out of the way, we are going to do a quick poll. So just super quick, does your firm mandate you and your colleagues to do any kind of regular cyber training? So just a super quick, yeah, we're doing it. No, maybe you're doing some, but it's, not a regular thing. So we'll just wait and see and try and get an idea of the audience that we have here today and what kind of things that you're doing. All right, so I think I got a general sense now. I'm just going to end the poll. And as usual, Zoom is glitching a little. I'll just tell you the results. It looks like generally about 50% are doing regular training, but then the other 50% either not doing the training or maybe don't have any real regular process around it. So that all is fine and good. Everybody here is in the right place. So let's move on from here. So just super quick, what is cybercrime? Really, any activity carried out using computers or the internet. This number is always staggering to me. 600 billion lost to cybercrime each year. That's a combination of money extorted as well as the cost to the business of downtime, recovery, and all those things. We will see in some other stats that it's mostly financially motivated. Cybercrime as a service is still a thing. You don't even need to be a hacker or know how to hack anything to be able to be a cyber criminal, because with cybercrime as a service, you could just pay a regular, fee, and they'll give you everything that you need to do to hack people and extort people. It's a really rapidly growing industry, partially because it is so easy to get into. But this is another crazy stat. On track to surpass the illegal drug trade money in the next few years. That is crazy. And another staggering thing, on average, companies take over 6 months to notice a data breach. This is the new style of attacks where hackers get in and they lurk around trying to gather as much intel and data and resources as they possibly can before coming in asking for the big payload. So why are we here? Why do we need to continuously be doing this cyber training? Don't we already know it already? Well, this man said it, I don't know, it was 15, 20 years ago even. The ex-director of the FBI, Robert Mueller, said, well, there's only two types of companies, those that have been hacked and those that will be. So we need to really be on our toes, but also as a business and as people, we need to prepare for the fact that sooner or later we may get hacked. And what do we do? Do we have the means and the process in place to recover if we do get hacked? Do we have the right tools in place? I mean, that's definitely a newer mentality that we have to have, but these hackers are always one step ahead of us. That's the sad part about it. We seemingly are always playing catch up. And it seems like there's more hackers than there are security specialists, again, because of the low barrier of entry and because, hey, people with money sponsoring, even government-backed hacking agencies, that's what we're up against, deep pockets that are funding these organizations. So the great thing about the internet is fantastic. So many resources, ways to communicate, keep in touch and whatnot. But the sad part about it is a large portion of the internet is really there to sell something to you, steal from you, manipulate you, even manipulate your opinion. So I wanted to show just a couple of things, doing a few searches, a few news articles that I had found. The first one is, and I hear from people all the time, oh, we're really small, so hackers aren't going after us. And that's definitely a misconception. They're going after small and large alike. Okay, maybe some of the bigger hacking outfits are going after big fish because that's what they do. But because the barrier of entry is so low, individuals and small groups, they are not just targeting large target. They're happy to do volume on smaller places. A lot of them are a lot easier to target because smaller companies don't spend as much on their IT. Another thing that I came across that I thought was interesting is class action lawsuits starting against organizations that have been hacked. And the basis of these lawsuits is that these law firms in particular didn't have adequate security to protect their data from cyber attacks. So sensitive data was stolen from a client or a vendor or something like that, and those people are suing the law firm because they didn't have the right, whatever you call it, tools. MFA didn't have the right internal process, weren't doing regular cyber training for their people, all of those kind of things.
Mike, I
So
was also just going to chime in there on the fact that law firms are one of the prime targets that hackers go after. Earlier this year, we did a webinar with an insurance company, and they were showing the statistics of claims from cyber attacks. And right at the top of it is law firms. They're the ones that have been right at the top of the list of money extorted, just data infiltrated. And that's why more than likely you're seeing your insurance rates, cyber, and just errors and omissions, all those types of insurance premiums jumping up significantly year after year because law firms are that big a target.
100%. Yeah. Based on the work that you do, the type of data that you store, a lot of sensitive data, definitely why they're a target. It's very lucrative. So the hackers, they're after your data, your authentication. I mean, this is their gold, the data to use to extort you, the authentication that leads to the data, that leads to other things, that allows them to manipulate your financial people into sending wire transfers to them or places that they shouldn't be sending it. So we're continuously being hit with this bait. We have to just learn to be able to recognize it. It's not just email now, it's all kinds of messaging, social media, text messaging. It's everywhere. And the organizations that are conducting these things, these cybercrime organizations, are very, very organized. So I did some research a while back and came across a case study of a company in the Ukraine. It was a 200-person business. From the outside, it looked like any other business. They had an HR department. They had birthday parties. They had Christmas parties. They allowed their employees sick days, vacation days, all of those things. So from the outside, it looked like any other business, with the only exception is that every employee was conducting cyber crime and extorting people for money. So, and that's just one business, and there's many, many more outlets. So they are very organized, and their research into what they're doing and the targeting that they're doing this day in this day and age is forcing all of us to up our game and be really prepared for it. So obviously at the top of what they have to gain, money, maybe it's fame, maybe it's just trying to disrupt people's or businesses' lives or cities' lives, or even political gain that we've all seen in the past as well. So having a quick look at the landscape, look, 74% of all breaches had a human element involved. So someone got tricked, somebody clicked on something they shouldn't have, whatever the case is, they entered their credentials into a fictitious website. So that's why cyber training like this is so important. This awareness training is so important because the human element is the linchpin. 83% of the breaches were involving external actors. So it's a small percentage that comes from, somebody like an inside type job, let's call it. And 95%, not surprising, financially driven breaches. We'll talk about business email compromise soon, but it's almost doubled since last year, and now representing more than 50% of social engineered attacks. So business email compromise is, gaining access to an individual's legitimate email account and then using that to exploit others to, that's where a lot of the wire fraud generally comes in as well. And then, the three primary ways where they access is getting credentials, using phishing to gain those credentials, and exploitation, social engineering, tricking people into doing things that they shouldn't be doing. One other newer stat that I came across recently, I couldn't believe this, but this is another kind of scary, scary thing. IoT stands for the Internet of Things. Basically, that's really any device that's connected to the internet. So a printer could be connected to the internet. Your refrigerator at home, your smart TV, all these things are connected to the internet, and they're all hackable. And it could be a way for a hacker to start to gain an infiltration into your home network, your business network, and whatnot. So that's a staggering 1.5 billion breaches in the first half of the year. Hire a hacker, if we're looking at trends, is still a trend. You can hire somebody These are a list of general fees it costs to hire a hacker to hack something. Don't tell my kids, but you can even hire somebody to get their grades changed and hack into the education system. And ransomware as a service is still a definite trend, just like, going and buying something off Amazon, adding a few things to your cart and checking out. That's how easy it is to be a cyber criminal these days. You can buy the whole package, which includes the whole website that you need, all formatted and ready, a whole campaign of emails that are phishing emails, that are going to use to exploit people. So it's that easy to be a cyber criminal. It's no wonder we're seeing so much activity. So now let's talk about some, recent threats. Man-in-the-middle attacks aren't brand new, but some of the more modern ones are. An old day man-in-the-middle attack, a lot of it happened over like public Wi-Fi, where somebody was able to go on public Wi-Fi and sort of listen in on a, so to speak, listen in quotes on a conversation and kind of steal the data that's transferring back and forth between a user and whatever their intended target is. Some of the more modern ones are just tricking people through phishing into, we see a lot with like Microsoft products, with Teams, certainly, where people think that they're logging in to a Microsoft site with the Microsoft login, but they're actually logging into a fictitious hacker's site and giving them their ID and password. At the same time you're logging into that site, the hacker then opens up another window and logs in with your credentials to the Microsoft site. And then you're thinking, well, wait a second, we have multi-factor authentication turned on, so the hacker's not going to have the code that Microsoft's going to send me. Well, they send you the code and you enter the code into the fictitious website, which the hacker now has your multi-factor authentication code, enters that in, and now he is in legitimately into your account in Microsoft 365. That's a more modern attack that we're seeing, and how they're staying one step ahead and getting around some of the means that we have in place. So I did mention just sort of a generic sort of Microsoft Teams. One of the newer trends that we've seen now is hackers are exploiting companies that maybe don't have great process and proactive process into looking at settings and configurations, certainly within Microsoft Teams. One of the configurations you can do in Teams is to allow external people to participate in your business's Microsoft Teams. And a lot of businesses do it. But there's a way to do it a little bit more securely. But if you open up this access to external people, a hacker could, if they figure out how to get access to your system, as an external user, send Teams messages to your people. And that's a trend that we've seen now, and they're directing people to things like, hey, we just sent you this HR document, and they'll have a document, let's say on a SharePoint site, and trying to get you to enter your credentials in, click on something that you shouldn't. So beware if you are on Teams regularly and you do see something, it will be noted. If you get a message from an external user, you better make sure it is somebody that is legitimate. But if you're unsure, make sure your IT people are checking those settings within Teams. Social media, whether it's WhatsApp, every social media platform now, people have been getting coerced by these hackers. Even yesterday on my WhatsApp, I got added to some sort of financial group. I never added it myself. It all of a sudden just came up, and there was this big conversation, and they were trying to get me engaged in a conversation and then trying to get me to link on things. So we all have to be very careful. If all of a sudden a group shows up that you did not join, delete it, get out of it, do not engage. So AI is all the buzz lately, isn't it? Everybody knows about ChatGPT. By the way, we just did a webinar recently, if you'd like to check that out. But hey, AI, it's been a great tool helping us, write things, and it's actually been a great cyber tool as well. But guess what? Hackers can use AI as well. And here's a few ways that they're using it. The first one is, how we used to get these phishing emails, and you could tell sometimes by the language in there that something wasn't right. the use of people's English in certain writing styles and whatnot. Now with AI and ChatGPT, you can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, write me an email that's going to trick somebody into opening this attachment, and it will do it for you. AI can also help these hackers generate malware code. Also, this is a crazy one, that it can be taught to listen and learn keystrokes just from a recording to guess a user's password. That is a bit mind-boggling. But like I said, AI can also be used for good, and we are seeing it used for good in trying to help and stop threats. But we all have to be aware of the dark side of it as well. 95 average number of days a hacker spends on average before launching an attack in a network. So they're getting in, they're being silent, they're looking around, gathering intel. So that's why we have to be so vigilant in A, not allowing them in, B, also having the means in place. And there are tools that can assist with trying to identify if somebody has gotten into your environment. We make that standard with all the clients that we support. Again, something to just ask your IT people if you're unsure about it. And when they're stealing data, they want to use it against you, potentially even against your clients. We've seen that trend as well. Hey, I hacked, so-and-so law firm. And if they hack a contact list, they're going to start going down the line of the contact list. Guess what? Unless they pay me my money, I'm going to release your information. And then public shaming, threatening to make data public and asking for a ransom in exchange. So let's hit up on some cybersecurity terms. Tyler, why don't you take us through some of these?
Yep, sure. Thanks, Mike. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with many of these terms, so maybe this is a refresher. Maybe there's some that it'll help you understand what the term actually means. Mike has already spoken a lot about phishing, and essentially this is just a wide range of different scams where they're ultimately trying to phish for credentials or banking information, anything that they can trick you into giving them that information that they can use, most cases to withdraw money or extort you in that way. A few different variants with phishing. So there's spear phishing. Spear phishing is just a very targeted type of phishing attack. A lot of social engineering may go on behind the scenes in anticipation of preparing for an attack. We've got the CEO or a partner at a firm. So this is called a whaling attack. So they're looking really to try to infiltrate in to some of the key decision makers that can authorize transactions, wire transfers, anything like that. Smishing and phishing is when they're sending you text messages and trying to get you to engage in that text message. So there's often links in a text message that'll show up in your phone, a CRA text messaging that you've got a refund that you need to claim. Same idea with a phishing is that's where they're calling you up and trying to trick you into engaging with them. Baiting is ultimately where they're trying to get you to engage, click into a link or something, baiting you to go to some targeted site where they can, again, try to phish credentials and information. And a watering hole attack is ultimately where there's an internet set that maybe your firm goes to on a regular basis that the hackers know if they can infect that site, it's ultimately going to infect the computers in the environment and they can gain access perhaps to your network through that way. Malware, one of the more common terms out there also, it's a lot of different malwares been developed over the years. Ultimately, malicious code that's designed to harm computers and systems, many different types of malware programs. And again, they're trying to steal information, delete information, be able to spy or just have spyware or some sort of program to infect the network. Ransomware, I bet most of you have heard of ransomware. One of the more common things that have happened, I'm going to say in the last decade now. At the heart of that, most commonly, it's where somehow they've managed to get an executable into the network that encrypts data on your network, spreads quite rapidly, whether it's through the servers or other areas where data stored on the network becomes encrypted. You go to access a file, it says you can't access the file. you've been hit with ransomware, call this number and we'll negotiate basically a fee to get you your data back. Spyware, exactly like the term sounds, they've put some sort of executable, some sort of tool on your computer to be able to monitor what you're doing on that computer. Keystroke loggers also is sort of a type of spyware where they're tracking, what you're putting in on the keyboard and being able to pull password information out on that. Trojan. So Trojan's a form of malicious code. It looks like a legitimate file, a program, an application, but it's really designed to control the user's computer and be able to access data. These are a little harder to detect until it's actually the damages and losses are significant, but it can delete, spy, and ask for money for seemingly rightful reasons. Virus, very similar. It's a type of malware aimed to infect and harm a file system or a network. We've been hearing about viruses for the past couple of decades. A worm, so it's also a type of malware virus that spreads throughout the network. So it self-replicates, and there were a lot of these about 10 or so years ago where it would start on one computer and all of a sudden it would just make its way through sometimes enterprise level networks where it would impact 5,000 computers on that network. And then we've got the white hat hackers, and these are cybersecurity experts, and their job really is they're the good guys trying to test a system to find vulnerabilities. So pretending they're a cyber attacker, they have some sort of background knowledge in ways that systems get infiltrated. So they try to break into systems and find potential security vulnerabilities to then reveal where you're exposed. Black hat hacker is a person who tries to break into the computer system by exploiting cybersecurity vulnerabilities. So the ones that are actually performing those types of hacks. Social engineering, this really is something that's going on in a lot of the other types of attacks. Mike talked a lot about it already, but this is very common now and how they're becoming much more successful in being able to especially trick people into wire transfers, being able to pretend they're you. So they're investigating through whether social media, through your website. You see on a lot of law firms, they list out who all the partners are, kind of the roles, responsibilities, sometimes even the finance teams listed on that legal website. So they're doing all the reconnaissance in the back end, trying to come up with a way that they can, who they're going to attack, how they're going to go about attacking that, watching social media pages to see when people are in the office, out of the office, vacations and stuff that may get posted on social. So this helps them be very timely in when they attack and the intel they use to perform that attack.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. All right, so let's move on and let's look at some, start super basic with some password best practices. Before we do that, can anybody guess what might be in the top 12 most common passwords used in Canada in 2023? Give you just a quick second to think about it. I mean, it's not a poll question or a test or anything like that. Sadly, these are the answers. I mean, still the number one password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, followed closely by the word password. I mean, this is insane. I made it 12. You might be thinking, oh, why'd you make it 12? Well, I had to include hockey so that people can, I guess it wouldn't be racially profile, you'd be country profiling somebody by guessing that a male in Canada might potentially use, who knows? You might have a high percentage of hacking somebody here in Canada if you use hockey. But I know, Rishwan, a bit more about this stuff in the
Sure.
in the brute force attacks.
Yeah. So basically, what a brute force attack is trying every single combination of letters, numbers, special characters. So if I start with 1, so it'll go from A to Z, then from 0 to 9, then from all the special characters in the list, then it adds 2 characters and starts going so on and so forth, and slowly starts increasing the length. This data that's on the screen, it's just a regular gaming computer that you could go into Best Buy and say, hey, I want to buy a gaming computer. Maybe it has 2 GPU cards, a little high-end-ish, not really that expensive. you buy it, and then you run this. I mean, if you look at Microsoft's old standard, 8 characters. So if you had everything, the numbers, the upper cases, the lowercase letters, the symbols, everything, the entire combination within 5 minutes, your password would be in the hacker's hand in 5 minutes. That's it. But
That's
on the
crazy.
flip side, the recommendation that now is in place, like 14 characters, if you look at it and just use upper characters, lower characters, no numbers, no characters, nothing, it'll take them 17,000 years to crack, right?
Wow.
So length really matters here. And, how to get to 14 characters is a common concern a lot of people have, that, getting a word to 14 characters, what do I do? No, you do not add January, February, March, April to whatever your password is. Stop thinking password, think of the pass phrases. So a sentence that is meaningful to you, not meaningful to anybody else, use that, just flip around, put in special characters. So where you use an S, say, for example, you have the word sugar in your password, use the S, replace it with a $sign, the A, replace it with an @ sign, and now just whatever you're saying, a spoonful of sugar gives you something, 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 right? And that used to be a song or something like that. So
Yeah.
at least have it 14 characters long, like I said before. A combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. Again, just if you don't know where to put them, just replace normal alphabets with letters, numbers, and symbols that seem similar to them. Don't use combinations of common information like your name, birth date. There are people who out there say, "Oh, my birth date is," you cannot find my birth date anyway. I don't put it in social media or anything. Well, guess what? Your kid posted a picture of you saying mom's 30th birthday. Well, it's not hard to calculate, based on what day the picture was posted on Facebook to figure out what your date of birth is. So stuff like that you shouldn't be putting there, especially if it's a corporate password. Do not have the company's name there, because again, instead of in a brute force attack, instead of going letter by letter, they're just going to add different variations of your company name onto a password. Never use that. Don't use the same password again. You may have great password hygiene. You may be protecting your password. Some other company gets hacked where you use that same password, super strong, great, awesome, amazing password. Now the hackers have the password to everything that you use, whether it's banking, corporate, and it seems very obvious, but it's not for a lot of people. Never share your password. So if you think, if you're sharing a Zoom account, for example, across the company, don't have a simple password that's easy for everybody to go around and put it in a password management tool, make it so complex that it has zero meaning to anybody. And anybody who needs that Zoom password, I'm just using it as an example, but anybody who needs that Zoom password has to go into that password management tool. I mean, I get that having multiple Zoom accounts might not be cost effective. And the last but not least, no sticky notes. This is something that just came out 2 days ago. I just saw that LinkedIn post about somebody who was on TV giving an interview and had passwords posted on the shelf behind them. It could have been the public Wi-Fi password. It could have been something else. But guess what? That company has lost reputation. There are people circulating that picture, cybersecurity people. So nobody's going to consider that company secure anymore. That's loss of reputation. And should anybody zoom in, use those AI tools to figure out what was in it, and God forbid it was their corporate admin password,
Yeah.
they're in a lot of trouble.
Jeez. Awesome. Thank you, Rishwan. All right, so let's move on and look at some email scams. So basically spoofing is somebody disguising an email to look like it's coming from a legitimate person, although spoofing is basically just changing the display name and what you see at the top of the email that's going to fool you, but it's actually coming from an illegitimate source. So a lot of the examples you'd see, like a spoofed email, maybe it's coming from a friend that and might have an infected link inside, or might be from a partner requiring, asking for sensitive company information, or even from a vendor asking for banking credentials or for you to send money to pay a bill or something like that. So I wanted to show you, this is a real life spoofing example. It's actually an email that was sent to me, and almost even tricked me, this one, because I've changed the names, obviously, to protect the innocent. But so John Jones was somebody that literally a month ago I had just spoke to about potentially doing business together. And then all of a sudden I get this email from him, and it looks certainly as John M. Jones, and that email address that's showing there, that's his legitimate email address. But hey, I'm not buying a home, so he shouldn't be sending me title or purchase agreement. Now, if I was a snoopy person, I might be like, ooh, I wonder what the purchase price was of this home. I'd love to see. Those are the shiny things that hackers are trying to use to get people intrigued and to get you to click on things. But if we look back up at the email address, the from email address up there, if you look to the right of it, all of a sudden I could see a little other bracket. And I was thinking to myself, what's that? So that thing right there, I just highlighted. If you actually open up the full email, but this was out of my view. So basically what this Virgitest 74, that's the actual email address that this email was sent from. However, what hackers are doing is they are disguising and making a very long display name. So John M. Jones and the legitimate email that shows there is all just a part of the display name. Anybody on this call, if you want to, you can change your display name to whatever you want it to appear. And if you make it long like this, the legitimate email, because Outlook, basically when you send an email, it shows the display name, and always right next to the display name, it shows what email address this was sent from legitimately. But if you make your display name long enough, it hides. And that's what this hacker, they were very smart. It basically hides the legitimate or the gobbledygook looking email and makes it look very legitimate. So one way you can check this, don't click on the links, but if you just double click on the actual email address, Outlook will pop up this little window and show you the actual email address of the user that sent this. So that's just another way to confirm if it is coming from. But even if it's coming from a legitimate email address, certainly if it's financial in nature or somebody trying to get you to open up anything that looks suspicious, you always have to just go back and call the person. Another way that they try and trick people is, sense of urgency. Like we've been doing lots of Zoom meetings, maybe it's Microsoft Team meetings, and something that, hey, you just missed a Zoom meeting, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, dang, I'm supposed to be on this meeting. And without looking at anything, you just go right in and you click on this link, and who knows where that's going to take you. So again, also just have to be very, very cautious. And then here's another one, just, you have to be suspicious of really generic things like the admin team or the IT team or IT department. So this one's saying, hey, you need to, if you don't take any action now, you're going to lose access. So click here to protect your email. So a sense of urgency, trying to get you to click. This one leads right here to what looks like a legitimate Microsoft sign-in. But if you look up at the address line, it's login.mcrsft. So it's not Microsoft, but at a quick glance, you might think, oh yeah, Microsoft, I'm logging in. And you would actually be giving your credentials away to a hacker. And then here's another one, again, hey, your password changed. And you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute. It says Microsoft account password change. I didn't change my password. Oh boy, I better get in there and click on one of these links to get in and follow their instructions, which is all going to be malicious against you. So again, if something like this happened, it looks suspicious, then you have to talk to your IT administrator, whoever that is, to say, hey, what should I really do about this? So I mentioned business email compromise before. So it's basically where an attacker is targeting a business in the hopes to defraud them ultimately by getting in, obviously phishing somebody, trying to get access to an email account. And Tyler talked about CEO fraud and whaling. So this is where they're going to get access, hopefully to a prime decision maker, optimally the CEO, that's going to send a note then legitimate or looking legitimately anyways from themselves to the person that manages finances. Usually in these cases, they sit and once they have access to an email account, will sit and watch emails and study for anywhere from days to weeks to even months, waiting for the right moment, the right time, the right situation. They have the right intel to ask the right question to trick somebody very, very easily. So if there is ever any doubt, now, if you are the person that manages finances for your firm, then you need to have a process in place for any kind of requests for large wire transfers. Some secondary means of confirming, in a lot of cases, hey, something real low tech, pick up the phone and call the person on the other end of the line to ensure that this is in fact legitimate. But having a process in place and following that process, very, very important. Sadly, we see it happening out in the marketplace. People are still being fooled and making giant wire transfers to the wrong people. And I think with the right process in place, that can be avoided. So yeah, I already just mentioned about kind of account compromise, the false invoice scheme where they're going to be sending invoices. And as Rishwan mentioned, in some cases, it's very legitimate invoices and they're just going to change one thing, and that's the routing and banking information of where to send a payment to. Again, if there's ever any changes like that to your invoices, again, it's worth making a call to whoever that vendor is just to be absolutely sure.
Yeah, and Mike, I'll just pause you for a second there just to give some real examples that we've heard of, and especially in a law firm. So, Mike mentioned that they'll perhaps be in the environment for days, weeks, months, whatever it is, and they'll be in, let's say it's one of the partners, one of the lawyers' email boxes, and they're watching traffic and they're understanding they already know who the payable people are and stuff, and they see calendars for that person, for that lawyer, let's say, and that lawyer's now gone off to trial, off to a mediation, whatever it is, and that's their opportunity. They'll then send that email to the payable person and say, hey, I'm in trial right now on a break. We need you to wire transfer this really quickly over, or something's happened and need to make this transfer. So always this sense of urgency, and they social engineer it very well because they already know, they've looked at the calendars, they've been watching, what's going on within the firm. So they time it really well and trick people time and time again just through that.
That is a great point. 100%. Let's keep going up. So some things to watch out for, any high-level executives or partners asking for unusual information, especially if it's hey, let's just keep this between me and you. I forgot to do this and I don't want to look bad. Don't tell anybody. Any requests that bypass any of the normal channels, language issues, unusual date formats, email domains and reply to addresses that don't match the senders, any sign of spoofing, anybody that asks you to say, hey, let's take this conversation offline in WhatsApp, send me your WhatsApp number or whatnot. So here's a few examples of a couple of things. Hey, I need you to make a wire transfer ASAP. So sense of urgency. Yeah, there's another one. Tyler was just talking about this one. Hey, there's a pending invoice from one of our providers, and because I'm on holiday, I need you to take care of this because I can't access the accounts from here. Yeah, forward me your WhatsApp cell number and wait for my text. I need you to get an assignment done for me ASAP. Oh my gosh, I better do this. This is the boss. So some things to look out for when we're talking about phishing and just emails in general. Always checking the to address. Is it actually addressed to you? Is it blank? Is it addressed to a long list of names? Checking the sender's email address and display name and making sure that you're not just looking at the display and you're actually seeing what the official email address that the email was sent from. Checking the subject line. Does it look suspicious or unusual? Any attachment, you 100% have to be suspicious. PDFs and Microsoft Word documents, I think, are the two most malicious types of attachments that you can see. Don't be fooled by the use of any kind of official logos, whether it's Microsoft or any other brand that shows up on there. Doesn't mean it came from Microsoft. Is your name in the greeting, or is it blank, or is it generic? Does it say, you know, something more unusual, greetings of the day, or something like that? Always need to get your back up with those things. Is there a sense of urgency? You know, that's how us, you know, cyber criminals do try and trick people with that. And then checking the body. Again, we're seeing with the use of AI that a lot of this stuff has been cleaned up, but definitely always check if you see something suspicious. Any kind of generic email signatures, yeah, the Microsoft team, the IT department, anything like that that's not coming from a specific person. And if there are any links, you know, hover over it if you can and check the actual address. I mean, we implement a piece of software with all of our clients that does some link protection, and it actually sandboxes and checks the link out before it actually executes and takes the person there. But if you don't have that, you got to do more kind of checking and due diligence to make sure this link is going to take you there. In the worst case, just go direct to the site, open up an internet window yourself. And if anything happens to look suspicious, you know, just delete the email altogether. This is an example of a smishing scam. It actually came to, I had one recently come to my phone as well, but hey, your Amazon subscription has been blocked, you know, click here. So we're seeing a lot of it over SMS and text. So let's just look at some, you know, basic tips. You know, oversharing. Think before you're sharing things on social media. Like, this is the primary place that, you know, if a hacker is trying to do a spear phishing campaign on a company, on an individual, that's the one place that they're going to go and look into social media accounts. They could get a plethora of information there, birth dates, and you name it. Never reusing passwords. Rishwan went over this with you, but look, the first thing a hacker does when they gain access to a password, A, they're going to try and infiltrate systems, but B, they're going to plug that into, you know, a piece of software that's going to just start checking thousands of sites to see if this ID and password is going to work anywhere else, especially banking sites. So never reusing passwords against between accounts if you can. Gosh, please. Always be skeptical if anybody is ever asking you to pay for something with a gift card. Like, that hopefully will definitely raise a big red flag. Smishing, we talked about being really vigilant. Your bank is never going to ask you to access your account from an SMS text. So always go direct. Anytime you're accessing your bank, go direct to the bank in just a web browser, never from a link. Avoid using public Wi-Fi. I mean, if you're just going to do some basic surfing, looking at a store or something like that, so be it. But never, you know, conducting business or any kind of personal information, logging in with credentials, all of that 100% has to be avoided. So avoiding Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, if you can, is great. If you have a, you know, obviously everybody has a home router. If you have the means to, changing the default password. A lot of times when Bell or Rogers sends you a new modem, it's got a default password. Everybody in the world knows what it is. You can Google search and know what it is. So changing that default password is definitely very good. And then a few other just basic general things. You know, don't click on ads or links that seem fishy. Only interacting with well-known sites. Confirming you're using non-fraudulent sites by checking the address line, making sure it's not just a variation of whatever the name is. Being cautious anytime you're downloading anything off of the internet, you have to be absolutely sure it's coming from a legitimate site. And then never clicking on links within an email. If you can help it, go directly to the website. That's the safest way that you can go. Now, protecting your firm. You know, these are things that we have in place pretty much with every company that we're working with, but you might want to just check with whoever manages your IT, but you should be using some sort of more advanced antivirus or like an EDR, MDR, XDR solution. They're more advanced solutions that not only provide antivirus protection, but also use AI and machine learning to detect if somebody has actually gotten in and might be lurking in your environment right now. Certainly awareness training and testing for your users. We do this with all of our clients 100%, and this should be on a schedule and regimented. Getting a vulnerability assessment regularly, encrypting laptops, definitely multi-factor authentication for access to any business means that are, over the internet or outside of your office. And another thing that we don't see enough of, certainly this is a strategy that we use with all of our clients, geo-blocking, only to allow like Canadian and US for access to information for sign-ins and things like that. All other countries, should, unless you're regularly doing business in other foreign countries, should be blocked by default, because that's where a lot of these threats are coming from. And then a more advanced solution using like a 24/7 security operations center service that's going to be monitoring your systems to monitor like granular monitoring of event logs and things like that, and using more specialized software to try and detect if somebody is either trying to get in or has already infiltrated into your network. So just a couple of resources. One that I really like is the Government of Canada's website, cyber.gc.ca. A lot of cyber companies are trying to sell you software and solutions and guide you to buying their products and things like that. I think the government is just legitimately trying to keep people safe, so I like that as a more unbiased resource. And then of course our website, we have lots of blog articles written on these topics, as well as I said, previous webinars that you can access as well. So with that, that's everything that we got through today. I think we got through in just about the time that we wanted to. And now I will just open up some things here for Q&A. Tyler, I know any questions come up?
Let me have a look here. No, none yet. So if anyone has anything or any examples of things that you've experienced or want to share, please feel free to do it in the Q&A.
So while people are typing, there's a question that I get asked a lot. What's the difference between an antivirus and a EDR solution? I mean, I'll say it this way. Think of it as a club that has been having a lot of issues with the criminal activity, and they hire a bouncer to stand at the club and make sure those criminal element is not going away, going inside the club, and they give him a whole stack of pictures. Okay, these are all the people that are performing criminal activities in our club, and so that's all that the bouncer has to rely on is those pictures. Now, in this world of cybersecurity and the hacking world, there's something called 0 days. Basically, it's like they did something different to the virus, to the malware, that it does not look like it used to before. It could be the same one, or it could be a brand new one that nobody's seen. So think of it as a criminal disguising themselves, or a brand new criminal that has never, is not in your list of photographs. So EDR, basically think of it as you replace that inexperienced bouncer who just relies on those pictures and put in a experienced retired police officer who is not looking at your pictures and your faces, but also says, okay, I'm going to look at your behavior. Mm-hmm. You're not behaving way like my other customers are. This is not how people who come to the club behave. So even though I don't have a picture of you, even though I've never seen you as a bad guy before, I'm still going to flag you as one because you are behaving like one. So that's exactly what EDR does. It relies on behavior. It looks at something, and it goes to, depending on what kind of solution it is, it even goes to the level of, it starts to learn patterns of how a particular person works, right? So what might alert for me might not alert for Mike, because it is extraordinary for me to go and do something, but for Mike, because of the way his function in the organization, he may do it all the time, right? So that's what EDR is all about. It's about that extra layer of intelligence for things that are not known, because that's essentially how traditional antivirus works. It's called signatures. I said photographs, but it's pretty much the same thing. They rely on signatures. All antivirus companies share the signatures with everybody. Somebody has to find it first, identify that signature, and send it to everybody for their antivirus to work. Your
Yeah.
computer could be infected with something that nobody's ever seen, and no antivirus would be able to stop it because all it does is look at that a signature.
100%. Yeah, I love that analogy. I'm stealing that, Rishwan. So
Sure.
from here on out, it will be
Yeah.
known as my analogy.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else come in, Tyler?
That's it.
Obviously, we did a really, really good job. Or, look, my hope at the end of this was that everybody watched that and said, yeah, wow, we already know all that and we're already doing all that. That would be music to my ears, is that we just kind of reinforced what everybody should already be doing. And maybe you got some other takeaways from it today. That would be our hope. But with that, we will just end right there. If anybody has any questions or whatnot, or just wants to have a conversation with us, you can send us an email, inquiries@pacetechnical.com. That'll get to us. If you wanted to have a conversation, a private consultation, if you just wanted another opinion about how you guys are doing things today, what you're doing around your cybersecurity, the means that you have in place, the tools, the process, and or lack of process that you have in place, we'd be happy to have a conversation and help you out. And with that, we will sign off, and I hope everybody stays safe, has a great rest of the day, and look out for more webinars from us. I'm sure we'll be doing another one next month. I'm not sure what the topic is yet, but look out for that. If you're on our list, you'll get an invite. And again, go back and look at our old webinars if you haven't seen any of those. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.